imagine going to your stand and you start hearing some things in the woods and you think that you're just alone, but you're not. But as soon as you get to your spot, blam, there's somebody there. Happened to me, you know. And this is just one of the little tiny horror stories that we have to deal with as public land hunters. So on this week's episode, guys, this is what we're dealing with here. Okay, this is what we're going to be talking about: is public land horror. What the average public land hunter has to go through each and every year. So just sit back, relax, and welcome to another episode of Michigan Boneheads Outdoors. Let's get it, guys. As a public land hunter, guys, there's a lot of things that we have to deal with every single year. Okay, we have to deal with, just surrounding pressure. We have to deal with hoping that somebody has not stole your tree stand or your camera or, like I said, your spot in general, which has all happened to me before. Okay, which I'm pretty sure that probably happened to you guys as well. This is just one of the horrors that we have to deal with as public land hunters. It's a gamble. We do take that gamble. There's a lot of hunters just like myself that put a lot of time, effort, money, and just everything to be successful for that year. And a lot of people, quite frankly, don't respect that. They go into public land, they think that it's a free for all. Like I said, they steal your stuff. I even seen trail cameras get shot by like 12 gauges, just get blown off. I haven't had any of mine get shot, but I've had mine stolen. I had my tree stand stolen. I had my spots stolen. Okay. And like the intro, I did walk to my spot and there was already somebody there. And like I said, guys, this is what we have to deal with each and every year as public land hunters, which I really don't feel like it doesn't get a lot of notoriety as what it should be. Everybody just, it is an absolute nightmare free for all. Okay. And me, I'm personally, I respect other people's stuff. I know what it takes and entails to put that stuff out, to get it all set, to, this, I respect everybody's stuff. I leave people's stuff alone. And ultimately, too, that kind of helps me out in a way. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put an X here because obviously there's somebody here. He's not going to be doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. So he just kind of, in a way, X'd out a spot that I should not be wasting time on. But dude, it is crazy on what public land hunters have to go through each and every year. And we're going to be going through some of these topics today. Okay. And I'll share some of my horror stories with you as we go along too. So it's just going to be one heck of a good episode. So let's get into it. So the number one thing that I feel like all of us have in common is putting the time in the woods on public land. Okay. We come across a spot, we put the time, the effort, the money in, we walked it, did the whole entire nine, and we started getting some bucks on camera, or you're starting to see that your spot's really going to get on fire, and then blam, just some Joe Schmo just comes in and absolutely destroys it. Had this happen in my spot. He even was smoking cigarettes and just flicking cigarettes everywhere, which is crazy. I really don't. I I really think that he knew that I was there, to be honest with you. I don't think that he was a fan that I was there. So he just did everything that he possibly can to completely ruin my hunt, which he did. That spot went from just being awesome to just nose diving in a split second. There again, guys, we're spending time and money and everything like that to get these spots ready to be successful during the season. And, for somebody to just walk on in, and I feel like kind of do it deliberately, is kind of like a slap in the face. You know, I'm not gonna be confrontational. I'm not gonna be the one to get down out of my stand and to confront, you know, this dude. Because ultimately, too, the other part of the horror stories as well is, guys, we're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know, and it's sad in this day and age I don't know what this guy or this girl's intentions are. You know what I mean? Like they could just, you know, then that's it. You know, so I don't get out of my stand and be confrontational. I'm like, okay, well, all right, well, maybe I can go and do another spot, you know, and then just get out of there. But there's been a lot of times to where I had to, you know, just kind of do like the fight or flight mode type of thing. And 9 times out of 10, I'm flying out of there. You know, if somebody does come up to me, obviously we're going to have to deal with what we have to deal with. But there's been a couple of times, even with my dad, that, you know, somebody scoped us a couple of times before. And what I mean by that, if people don't understand, is that you know, we kind of did the wave thing, you know, to let them know that we were over here. And what did they do? They scoped us with the rifle. And you want to talk about being scared, you know, having looking down the barrel of a 30-06, you know, or whatever that they had, only at 150, 200 yards away, you know, it kind of puts a little tingling in your spine, you know. And Pop there, he was not having it. Dad pretty much screamed at him, you know, because like I said, the guy's the just aiming a gun right at us, you know. It's just crazy. Um, but a lot of the horror stories also too, and like I said, we had to deal with a lot of equipment being stolen or being ruined. Um, it's an everyday battle for us public land hunters. Um, you know, overcrowding. There's certain times of the season to where it is bomb, and then all of a sudden, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. The Orange Army comes in, and it is just an absolute free for all. I've seen people argue over deer. Um, you know, one says, "Hey, I shot it over here," while the other one says, "No, I shot it," and then they get into a confrontation. I mean, it can be quite madness. You know, if I can sum up public land in certain parts of the season, is absolute madness. That's why I kind of really don't go out that much when it kind of starts hitting the particular parts of the season. And if I'm going to be transparent with you, that's during rifle season. Um, Rifle season is just an absolute madhouse. So I kind of revert back a little bit. I like bow hunting just a tad bit more. Um, there's really not that much people out in the woods. I mean, there's a ton, but there's really not that much people out in the woods during bow hunting compared to rifle hunting. But it is just it can be crazy, crazy time to be out in the woods. And like I said, guys, it's, you know, looking down the barrel a couple of times throughout my career of hunting, you know, just kind of sends a shiver down your spine. It just kind of gives you that spidey sense, you know, that you constantly have to kind of look over your shoulder a little bit while you're in public land. And again, quite frankly, at our time and during this age of this crazy world that we're living in, that's what we have to deal with, you know. So that's one horror story that I have with you for public land. I feel like another topic, guys, too, that we can kind of have possibly maybe a common ground about is on public land, dude. Everything is a free for all. Okay, what I mean by that is if it's brown, it's down. All right. There's a lot of people that shoot button bucks and stuff like that, which is fine, which is perfectly fine. You know, if that makes you happy, then so do it. Okay. But where I'm getting at is kind of like the caliber of deer that I feel like Michigan can hold. These deer have no chance in hell on getting to a mature level. Okay. It has changed a little bit throughout the years. I've been kind of seeing a little bit more higher caliber of deer. I really have, but it's very, very, very slight. Okay. Because man, it is like Vietnam out there for these deer, you know. And sometimes these, you know, upcoming bucks have no chance whatsoever. They get blasted. What I don't like either is it seems like a lot of people don't take the time to not well to not respect the animal for one, and two, do not take the time to sight in their rifles or their bows or whatever. I see a lot of animals that have a lot of wounds, that had a lot of previous wounds. There's been a lot of deer that me and dad have got throughout the years that had projectiles in them, and like hindquarters, and just in the neck. I mean, just really, really bad placement. Um, I don't take a shot if I know that I can't kill that deer quickly and humanely as possible. I will not take it. You know, I have so much respect for that animal that it ain't all about, just trying to get the horns on the wall as fast as I can, or whatever it may be. I don't do that. If I cannot make an awesome shot, I will not take it. But at the same time too, I'm like, okay, I can't make this shot. All right. I can't do the shot. But I know if I play my cards right and I slip out of here as a ghost and come back in as a ghost, I might have another chance at this deer rather than rushing the shot. Okay. Or making a absolute horrible shot and wounding that animal. I do not want to have an animal suffer. Okay. I've I'm pretty sure you guys seen it too. Like you see some deer walking in the woods that it's just like there's just no way that this deer is going to make it. And then I feel like that is backtracked to that person that has shot that. Don't get me wrong, there has been times to where you make bad shots. It's hunting. I understand that. But I just know some people that just don't take the time, or known some people, I should say, that don't take the time, because I don't affiliate myself with them no more. You know, we have a duty to these animals, and that is to humanely harvest them as quickly as we possibly can. And on public land, I've seen it throughout the years, guys, that it's just a lot of people just don't care, and it's kind of sickening. I've seen people. I'm pretty sure you guys even heard it too, hearing 10, 5, 7, 10 blasts opening day of rifle season. I mean, what, what are you doing? It's kind of like the Patriot, aim small, miss small type stuff. But man, they're just blasting. Okay. And that's just one guy. You know, how many shots have you heard on opening day all around you? So it's we need to do a little bit better part on that. Like I said, I don't take shots that I know that I can't kill that animal quickly. I will just not do that. I got too much respect for that animal, and my dad has taught me that too. He says never take a shot if you feel like you can't get it done, and I won't. But that is another little horror story of public land hunting that a lot of people don't tell you. Another horror story within itself, guys, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it is true, and it is reality. It happens. Is poaching deer, especially on public land at night. Trust me and dad have heard it, okay, throughout the years. What me and dad usually do is we camp out there, and we kind of start seeing some kind of trucks out in the distance. Guys, you got to remind yourselves, we're in the middle of nowhere, okay? And the spidey senses kind of start to kind of go off. You just start to see it, just a truck or whatever, just creeping, through the trails. You know exactly what they're doing, okay? And then it kind of, you see the tail lights kind of dwindle off, and then maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, you start hearing faint shots of boom, boom, you know, exactly what they're doing, okay? But there again, you're out in the middle of nowhere, all right? You've got to be safe, you know. And let's just be honest with one another right now, guys. Okay, maybe there is 4 or 5 guys drinking beer in there shooting deer. You know, you got to be safe. You don't want to intrude or to stop them. Because it can get kind of hairy. You have no idea what somebody's intentions are in public land. You don't. And quite frankly, like I said, with this day and age now that we are in, it's sad, but you have to make sure that, that we're making it home at the end of the day, you know, and all we can do is kind of report it that you saw a truck, you know, but that kind of really doesn't do any good, the DNR kind of probably wants the make of the truck, the license plate, the color, this, that, and the third. There's numerous times to where we just don't even know. You just see headlights, and then you hear shots, and then you never see that truck or whatever come in or out ever again. Because where we hunt at, guys, it's just so many different trails that you can get out in and out. It's just you'll never find them, and I feel like the DNR knows that too. But it is a reality horror story within itself, is poaching deer, and it's just it's like I said, it's sad, but I mean, what do you do? You know, and it's something needs to be addressed about it, and hopefully you're not part of the problem. I'll tell you another story that I really sure you guys are going to kick out of. And Dad, if you're watching this, you know where I'm going with this one when I say Larry. Okay, it's just a lot of people don't understand it. I'm going to get right into it here in just a minute, but I got to paint the picture, right? So me and Dad are walking into our spot, right? Putting a drag rag down. Dad was going to hunt one spot. I was just going to keep on going to another spot. But in the meantime, like I said, we're trying to put a drag rag down. Just before the sun was starting to kind of around like 5:30, we were going to our spots. Blam! There's already somebody sitting there. We got upset and we kept on going. And I was like, "Well, Dad, we might as well just, you can probably post up somewhere where I was going to sit at, and I'll just probably go a little bit deeper in the woods." I had no idea where I was going. This is opening day of rifle season, and he was like, "All right, well, we just really didn't have a choice." Okay. Got a little bit further down into the woods, and then blam, there's somebody else sitting in my spot. And me and Dad were both like, what in the world? Come on. Like this is, like at this point, we were starting to just kind of get over the public land hunting type thing. I mean, no matter what it seemed like we were doing, somebody was there. No matter how far in the deep in the woods that we went, somebody was there. So now me and him are both out of spots. Okay. So he's like, hey, I'm just going to go sit over here at this spot. We're just going to try over here. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep on going in. All right. As the sun came up, obviously we didn't see anything. And I'm sitting there. We had walkie talkies. I was sitting there and Dad came over the radio. He says, hey. I was like, yeah, Dad, what's up? He's like, do you want to get these guys out of here? I was like, 10-4. He says, all right, wait for my signal. I'm like, all right. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what do you mean a signal? Are you going to beep the radio or something like that? Then all of a sudden, guys, boom, boom. And it scared the living daylights out of me. And I'm just, there again, we got to have our back, the eyes in the back of our head. I'm like, dude, is somebody like shooting at me thinking, and my dad screams on the top of his lungs, Larry, Larry. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And it dawned on me, he wants me to pretend that I'm Larry. So I'm like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, I think I blew its leg off. Come on over here. I think I got him. So basically what Dad is doing is completely ruining this whole spot that these guys took over. Okay. Because like I said, they were in our spots, but Dad just went in there and just made sure that nobody saw deer, and then I'm running, right? And I'm tripping over logs and stuff. Like I gotta remember that I have a gun with me, and I'm just laughing up a storm, and he is still just boom, boom. And we walk by these guys, and they're like, "Did you get him?" And he was like, "No, nope, I missed," And my dad was like, "Are you gonna sit here tonight?" And the guy's like, "Yep." kind of like being smart about it. He's like, "Yep." Dad's like, "All right, cool. All right. Well, good luck." And we just walked off. Oh man, dude, that was the best thing ever. It's just hearing my dad scream Larry, and just, I think, Dad, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he let out probably about like 4 or 5 good shots and just kind of just kept on going and just screaming up a storm. Like I said, he made sure that nobody saw deer that day. And it was just, I think at that moment in time, it starts playing tricks on you, and public land can kind of mess with your brain a little bit, and it started messing with ours. It's just like I said, guys, it's just no matter what we did, no matter where we went, we just could not get away from them. And I'm pretty sure you can attest to that too. So if you have any funny stories or anything like that, guys, put them in the comments. I would love to read them. So it was just, remember, always, if you have somebody that's in your spot, be a Larry. Honestly, guys, it'll be easy for me to sit here and talk about horror stories after horror stories after horror stories. And this would not just be a video, it would probably be turning into a podcast. So I won't be doing that to you guys. But if you can, guys, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please subscribe to the channel. We're growing really, really good here, but we can't do it without you. So if you can, guys, just please give me a subscribe. We really appreciate it. And always remember to keep bringing traditions back home. Till next time, guys. Later.